York Jets lost their fifth game in a row today in Seattle. The final was 23-6. The Seahawks keeping their playoff hopes alive. Conversely, the Jets' playoff hopes came to an end today. The Jets officially eliminated from the postseason with a fifth consecutive loss. Welcome into Jets Overtime, presented by SiriusXM. Eric Allen here inside the studio with Quincy and Enunwa. Momentarily, we'll be joined by Anthony Beck. But Q, from the get, the Jets just didn't have it. Seattle got the opening kickoff. 3 plays later, they're in the end zone. And that turned out to be the game-winning touchdown. They only needed 7 points today.
Yeah, I mean, you had two teams with losing records, losing streaks, and only one of them decided to come to the game today ready to go. You know, unfortunately, the Jets just couldn't get it going. The Seattle Seahawks came out firing. You know, that first drive, they scored a touchdown in 3 plays. So, you know, Jets couldn't pick up from that point, and it just wasn't good from there.
As Anthony Beck enters the program, AB, Happy New Year to you and your family. Not a happy beginning to the new year for Jets fans. Much like we've seen here in the season's second half, not enough offense from the green and white.
Yeah, you're right. You know, it's been disappointing, and there's a lot of areas you can really look at on the reasons why. Obviously, depleted offensive line, poor quarterback play. Offensively, you just don't see the mesh that you saw when this team was 7-4. It's hard to believe that, you know, 5 games later, you know, you find yourself losing every one of those games. And then you talk about the last 2 games when they mean something. You didn't see that fight. You saw a Jags team in the last game that looked hungry and knew what the situation was. And they hadn't been in that situation like the Jets had in a long time. And they came out poised, they came out ready, and they started fast. Then you look at this game, okay? You get away from your element, away from home, okay? And then you start a new quarterback. And now you go out there again. And again, it's the same thing. Seattle, fire coming out of their mouth, really, on both sides of the ball. Everything looked smooth, concise. You saw that. And then on the other side, it just wasn't clicking again. You know, what are those reasons? Why is that? You know, I was shocked on the play of Mike White today. He just was off. He did not look himself. Everything he did in the game looked completely the opposite of what we've seen of him, which was weird. You know, you're talking about a guy that was on time, a guy that understood the progressions, a guy that saw things pre-snap today. You know, a lot of ball tapping, a lot of second guessing, overthrows. Just almost looked like completely hadn't taken a rep for the week. And like you said, 10 days, you know, to prepare for this football game. Just very odd. And again, you look at the defensive side, it's just all about starting fast. Just the ability of Seattle to come out and just fire at all cylinders offensively, and the way they ran the football and really at the line of scrimmage. I mean, Quinn and Williams, it was almost as if he didn't play today. Not that he was the factor, but they completely shut him down as a force in this game, and no one else really stood up and built a wall to make the team earn anything in a tough way early in this game.
Quincy, Mike White, 23 of 46 for 240 yards. He was sacked 4 times, had 2 interceptions. And again, the Jets didn't find the end zone.
Yeah. What do you even, you know, attribute this to? It's hard to say. I think, you know, we got to commend Mike White for coming out and performing the way he did. You know, he did his best in these moments. I know it can't be easy to come off of a rib injury and really perform at quarterback, especially with the torque it takes to kind of throw the ball deep and throw the ball in the position that you need to throw it in. But everybody else around him just, you know, they couldn't pick it up. The unfortunate thing is, in the first half, you had so many rushes, and in the second half, you only have 4 rushes. And a lot of that had to do with, you know, just not being able to move the ball. I mean, if the first rush is -3 yards, you can't run the ball again on that until you get another first down. And if you can't get a first down, now that's another punt. Now you got to figure out on the next drive, okay, do I throw the ball first or do I run the ball first? It just makes it that much more challenging on Mike LaFleur. So, you know, as a whole on the offense, guys just weren't able to get it together, weren't able to play team football. You know, you might have one guy performing well, but the rest of the line wasn't performing well. The rest of the receivers weren't performing well. It just was not complete football.
Yeah. AB, in absence of complimentary football from the green and white, again, we've come to expect very good things from the Jets defense. Bottom line, they only gave up 23 points today. You take away a couple field goals because the Jets turned the ball over deep inside their own territory. But with that being said, how tough is it now when you see an offense again score points early on you, much like Jacksonville we saw 10 days ago at MetLife Stadium? Seattle came out and quickly got 17 points. And that's, on the other side of the ball, you got an offense that just, it can't get anything going. No rhythm.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you're talking about this defense has been so good throughout the season. And we look at the big picture, which is the end number of points that they give up. And when we say, well, that's good enough for the offense to step up. But you completely said it. The start of the teams that they're playing against and jumping on them before they actually start playing the style of defense they did early in the season, that's been their deal here during this 5-game losing streak. So you're right. They are doing things, but it's the first half, which is so crucial, especially on the road, especially in big games. I mean, if you're trying to get something sustainable on offense, you got to come out and play that complementary football on the other side. And unfortunately, they're starting too late. It's almost as if they're spotting the point. Now, the offense, absolutely needs to go down and needs to match. They need to score. But I think right now the instability at the quarterback position is a big question mark. And again, all those questions are going to be continuing to swirl. I was really expecting, at least offensively, a little different operation today, and quite frankly, surprised on overall what it looked like.
Yeah, as we look at the game summary right now, the Seahawks totaled 346 yards, which isn't a crazy number. But we have to keep in mind, Seattle had 196 yards in the first quarter, where they took control of the game, and the Jets were never able to really get a handle of this ball game. They fall for a 5th consecutive time. They are now 7-9, officially eliminated from the postseason. The voice of the Jets, Bob Wischusen, talked to Jets quarterback Mike White after the game.
Mike, I'm sure you're very disappointed. What are your emotions right now?
Yeah, just kind of all over the place. Like you said, disappointed, upset with myself and my play, and just, kind of around those words.
The injury that you had a few weeks ago, that seemed like a lot to come back from. You didn't look like yourself to us. Was that a factor today? And I'm sure for you it was a frustrating day.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. These guys in the locker room deserve a certain standard of play. And when the doctors clear you, you're good to go, you're good to go. So I didn't meet that standard of play today, and those guys in that locker room deserve better. And I'm going to do my best to learn from it, make sure it doesn't happen again. But, it doesn't matter about the injury. The doctors clear me, and I need to be ready to go.
What did Coach Saleh say after the game? I mean, I'm sure it's hard to take positives out of what's happened the past couple of weeks, but to get this deep in the season for this team to have playoff hopes, I mean, is there a sense that you guys have taken a step forward, or is that hard to look at right now?
In the grand scheme of things, yes, we have taken a step forward, but that's not what matters right now. And I think that's a positive sign. When your mentality is the playoffs and no moral victories, that means you are doing something right, but we didn't do it right enough, or however you want to put it. So hopefully we'll use this. I know we'll use this as fuel and learn from it and get better from it, but right now it stings.
Well, thanks for standing up. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
You were watching Jets Overtime presented by SiriusXM. Eric Allen, Quincy, Enunwa. Q, obviously a very dejected Mike White there.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for him to come out here. I think he knows that he would have loved to perform well for his team. He knows that there's different things that he could have done differently, the team could have done differently. But I appreciate that he's taking accountability, that, he's speaking for the team. That's something that we've looked at Mike White to do throughout the season, and, he's continuing to do that and be a leader.
All right, AB, let's get to the turning point right now. And it happens early in this game. First play from scrimmage, Seattle sets the tone with a 60-yard run from Kenneth Walker. really getting their home fans into the game that leads to a touchdown. And the Jets only end up scoring 6 points in this game today.
Well, I say it all the time, offensive line, knuckle up and blow somebody off the ball. If you go back and watch that clip again, exactly what they did. Came out with a purpose on that first play. They had linemen spinning and getting pushed back. I mean, it's not a good look right there on that first play. And that sets the tempo. I'm telling you right now, I can't tell you how many games in my mind that when I would line up, regardless of what it was, if it was a run play, I would try to just overdo it just so I could set the standard on a punch or whatever it is on the guy to let him know, like, there's going to be a fight today. And, all legally done within the realm of the game. And that mentality, I watched a few other clips from other games. The 49ers, I mean, they're down their best offensive player, but they're rolling up and running the ball. And some of these other, even like Carolina, teams that you wouldn't even expect. That is the mentality that needs to be done. Now, with that being said, this is an offensive line for us that we would love to see the same thing, but we're just all the pieces aren't there. But defensive line, just an unexpected. So from that point on, okay, now what? Now I'm ready. Well, they've already gotten the best of you early on, and that sets the tempo for the game. So, again, what's the mentality when you come out of the locker room? We talked about the magnitude of the game. And on that first play, it's just like, man, like 60-yard run. I get it. Plays happen. But it triggered an effect, and it gave them a confidence boost in this game. It really didn't shake away at all. There was nothing the Jets were able to play off of from that point forward. It was the turning point of the game was the first snap. Think about that.
It really was. It really was.
It's amazing, but it set the tone.
It certainly did. I mean, this is the first time, Quincy, since week 2 that the Jets gave up consecutive scores on back-to-back possessions. They found themselves in a 10-0 hole. But if you go through it, it's Kenneth Walker for 60, Kenneth Walker for 1, Geno Smith to Kobe Parkinson, the tight end, 12-yard touchdown. That's the drive of the game. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even say. I mean, AB, you made a lot of great points, right? You got to start strong, and I love that point that you made about really within the realm of the rules, getting those little shots in. One thing that I talked to EA about the game, about DK Metcalf, is that I love what he does. When he goes out there, he lets guys know that he's going to come and be physical for the whole game, all 4 quarters. I feel like that's a mentality that the Jets offense needs to carry, and they're just not doing that. I've been trying to discover and figure out like what really is the reasoning for why they're not able to do what they've been doing from the beginning. Whether it was Breece Hall going down, AVT going down, the offensive line shuffling, quarterback challenges. It's hard to tell. I wish that even with all of those things going on this team, I wish they could still keep a mentality that they're the big dogs, the guys that are coming in to really work all game, and it just hasn't been that way, and the defense has had to carry that load.
AB, I thought the Jets offense moved the ball pretty well early. You saw some explosive plays. You can start with that first drive. White hits Conklin for 17. Ty Johnson, who gets the start in offensive backfield, goes for 22. But then White is intercepted by Diggs. That ends a drive that is in Seattle territory. Jets get a field goal on that second drive. But again, it's 10-3 at that point, and Seattle scored on 3 of their first 4 possessions, so it was a 17-3 game. So while the Jets were moving the ball there early, they come up with just 3 points, and the defense could not get a stop in this game, and it's double digits, and from there you're just playing catch-up.
Mike and Mike got exactly what they wanted, run game support.
Yep.
They got it early. The problem was Mike White, and that was an unsolicited force pass, not quite sure what he saw there. It just wasn't him on that one, man. That kind of play right there, when you're moving the ball down the field, again, when you watch it, it's not like they fooled him. The safety was there, and he was just watching them. And he was already on that side of the field and basically just came over and snatched it away. It was a throw that didn't need to be made. And we said these things, people rib Zach Wilson on that similar play against Detroit Lions. It's the same thing. The inconsistent play that's been, kind of the long-term disappointment for the season. But with that, you also can look at it another way. You can say the Jets were able to get 7 victories this season so far, maybe 8 with that shuffling and inconsistent play, which makes you think, okay, they really are getting better and closer. And then all those pieces, Q, that you talked about when you're saying what it is all those things. That is a part of the O line, the shuffling, all that stuff. I mean, think about it. Excuse me. Um, Brown is a guy that was brought in, before the season started. I mean,
Right.
Right before the season to fill a hole. There's pieces missing, and that consistency that they're looking for was not there, but they were still able to kind of get those wins, and they came so quick and early, and they feel of, okay, let's go. Like, this team's got a shot. In reality, there were holes there that were getting patched up that weren't maybe significant because of the great play early on by the defense. And you got to give a defense a lot of credit this season, because they did play really well for a long stretch of time and really did, keep this football team in it in this season. So now, again, I think the plan, like we talked about, is this next year is the plan. The problem is, the caveat is, the quarterback situation has changed, altering that plan. How does that actually, now moving forward, delay or exceed the expectations, or get you where you want to be for next season with one game remaining?
Yeah, so much to get to there with the quarterback talk, and we are going to cover that coming up. Not just, hey, Mike White getting the rock again next week, but what is this going to look like for the Jets in 2023? Here is today's scoring summary. The green and white limited to just a pair of Greg Zuerlein field goals. Jason Myers, the former Jet, closed out the scoring for the Seahawks in a 23-6 victory. Let's bring in Ethan from Seattle right now. Greens, the Jets finally got a spark in the run game in the first half, but that kind of went away in the second half, didn't it?
Yeah, Ty Johnson was the guy that got the start. Donovan Van Knight has really been the lead horse in the stable in the stretch run here for the Jets, but Ty Johnson was the first guy to get the workload, and it felt like the Jets were really starting to get something going on the ground. But I think, unfortunately, when they fell behind, you started to have to throw the ball probably a little more than Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur wanted to, and that's really evident when you look at the first and second half numbers. The Jets only had 4 carries in the second half after successfully running on the ground in the first half. And I think that, again, when you get behind, you have to throw the ball, and that's not the Jets brand of football, not the one they want to play, and that was evident today.
Yeah, Seattle entered this game 31st in the National Football League against the rush, and the Jets had 13 carries in the first half for 76 yards, but like you mentioned, 4 carries in the second half, -1 yard. Offensive problems continue to exist here for the Jets since the bye, Greens. That's now 8 touchdowns since the Jets started 6-3. Of course, the team now 7-9.
Yeah, it feels like really the offense, after starting the season pretty fast, I would say, or really putting up points, really seems to wither away here since the bye week. To your point, 8 touchdowns since the bye week. I mean, that's not a playoff football number, and the Jets controlled their own destiny heading into this game. They needed to win their last 2. Of course, the Dolphins needed to lose, or the Dolphins needed to win for next week to be a win-and-in scenario. That did not happen. But for the Jets, really the offensive struggles is really, I think, what bit the team in the stretch run here. And I think that the proof is in the pudding with the stat that you said, 8 total touchdowns since the bye week. And, of course, the Jets start 7-4, now sitting at 7-9. It's clearly a big discrepancy between the first half and the second half of the season.
Just 2 field goals from Legatron today. 23-6 was the final score. You talked to a couple guys. You got to be professional in this situation, but it's got to be a major letdown for a Jets team that was 7-4 in Minnesota. That fourth quarter looked like they're going to have some fourth quarter magic, and all of a sudden they're 7-9, and they're finishing the season in Miami, officially eliminated from the playoffs today.
Yeah, Robert Saleh said that it stings big time, and I would imagine that's a feeling that every Jets player and coach and staff member could empathize with, because when you think about what you just said, the Jets were marching on the goal line in Minnesota, had a chance to get to 8 wins, unfortunately, they lose that game. They haven't won since the Chicago. And here's the thing. When I was talking to Tyler Conklin, he basically said, like, there is a 24-hour rule, but this one might extend a little bit in terms of putting losses behind you just because of the nature of this situation. This was a playoff game for the Jets. If they won this week, they would have had a chance to clinch a postseason berth for the first time since 2010 next week in Miami. That did not happen. The Jets are officially eliminated from playoff contention. So I think this I think this game does sting a lot, but I think that the Jets will be motivated to close out the season strong in Miami.
The Jets had 4 sacks today of Geno Smith and 5 tackles for loss, but it was their play of their secondary that continues to stand out. Former Seahawk DJ Reed played awfully well on the outside, and Sauce Gardner continues to play on just another level. Let's get to the telestration now. As always, we're powered by Microsoft. One of the Jets' bright spots continues to be rookie cornerback Ahmad Sauce Gardner. Quincy entered this game leading the National Football League with 16 PDs. What did he do today in Seattle? 4 PDs, including this one against DK Metcalf, one of the finer receivers in the National Football League.
Yeah, exactly. And one big thing that I want to point out is that, you got this guy going against Tariq Woolen, so you got 2 Pro Bowl corners up in this game, and Sauce came out as the better corner in this game, even though Tariq Woolen got the win. So right here, down here, we're going to see DK Metcalf going up against our guy Sauce Gardner. And this is a talented corner. We know it. The Seahawks know it, but they still wanted to try him in one-on-one. So on this play, DK Metcalf tries to run the slant route, and what a great play by Sauce. And I want to show you guys the backside first just to see. This is a hard play to defend because in this goal line area, when you undercut, there's a good chance that DK could have ran the slant corner. But thankfully, Sauce has been doing his film study, and look at him right here, outstretched hands, great job getting his hand on the ball. You also got to point out here, I want to point out a great job by Joyner because this is a goal line quarters coverage. So right now he's got his he's got his eyes in the back. He's looking to see what's going on here because he has number 3. So when number 3 comes across, he knows he has to take him. But he also has to have his eyes on the quarterback because it's zone. So he does a great job, sees the quarterback is going this way, and if Sauce didn't make that play, Joyner probably would have made it as well.
All right, but DK Metcalf today, he had 1 catch for 3 yards. Just an amazing job on the outside by not only Sauce Gardner, but DJ Reed, because Tyler Lockett, who returned to the lineup, he only had a couple catches as well. We're just expecting these guys to be sensational each week, and Sauce Gardner continues to deliver. Let's look at him in zone coverage.
Right, so this is another great play by him here, and this guy just continues to perform well. You got to give it up to him. There's a reason why he's a Pro Bowler. So now he's got a curl on his side. So he's got one-on-one with a curl. They're in his zone, so it's still zone, right? He makes the perfect break. And one thing I want to show you guys again on this side, one thing that Sauce always does, he's always got his hands in perfect position. Talk about great hand position. Look at that. And as a receiver, I really want to make this point. Thankfully, a lot of our receivers do a great job, but you need to get your hands out. You're going to make it a lot easier to make that catch. When you try to catch it with your body, you're always going to give the DB an opportunity to make the PBU, and that's what happens here. But Sauce is just a great DB, so he would have probably made it anyways.
All right, so we got a couple points to make. Sauce Gardner, he was a Pro Bowler, already got that selection.
Yep.
I think he should be Defensive Rookie of the Year and an All-Pro. What do you say?
I think he should be. He's performing well all year. He keeps doing it well, so why not?
All right, let's get to Caroline Hendershot right now, standing by with Sheldon Rankins.
Here with Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon, what did you think of the defensive performance as a whole today?
I think we started too slow. I think, against a team like this who prides itself on having that home field advantage, and a team that can run the ball as well as they do, you got to be able to start fast. With them, they're able to get that big run early, get some scoring drives early in the game, and then we kind of settled into it. Obviously, still weren't able to make enough plays, but I feel like for the most part we settled into it, forced them to some field goals in situations where they could have got touchdowns, and then were able to get some stops. But overall, you can't start that slow against a talented team like this, and I think that was to our detriment.
What were some of the coaches or even your teammates saying in the locker room afterwards about the performance and the loss today?
Yeah, I think everybody was kind of on the same page with it. We just started too slow. We weren't able to get going as consistently and as fast as we needed to be able to pull this game off. They're an extremely talented team in all three phases. And for them to get the momentum early, we just never capitalized on pulling that momentum back our way. And I think late games in the season, that's what it can come down to.
Now, I know every loss hurts, but how much does this loss hurt knowing that it eliminates you from playoff contention after the season that you guys had?
It's tough. I think, being in that locker room, you hear the silence. You hear, guys just trying to process what's next, understanding that we fought so hard and scratched so hard to be able to put ourselves in position to enter the postseason and try to make a run at it. And now that's, it's not possible. So it's tough, but understanding that as professional football players, as a team, as brothers, we still got one more to go. And being able to finish strong and being able to understand that everybody watches this tape. Everybody watches this tape. You don't want to be seen on tape as a team that quits because you don't have anything to play for, a team that, puts up lackluster performances consistently. So it's tough to process, understanding that we won't be able to make the playoffs, but understanding that we still have a job to do, and that's finish the season strong.
You've been part of some pretty tough losses before in your career as a whole. What does a young team like this learn from and use it to their advantage down the line? How does it help them grow?
Yeah, so I think it's understanding that those minute details that sometimes you may think won't add up over the course of a game, you really understand that you have to lock into those. But then it's also understanding that, as a team that's so young and a team that has so much to build on, we have a team that's confidence is unwavering. You got guys like Sauce, you got guys like Garrett, Brees when he comes back, all those guys, like, they're unshakable, from a confidence standpoint. So we'll learn from this. We'll continue to grow from this. We'll be right back in position to make the playoffs soon.
Thanks for your time, Sheldon.
Thank you.
That's great perspective from veteran defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins. Good interview from Ethan Greenberg there in Seattle. It is time for report cards, And Anthony, we're going to start with you. We'll get the bad grades out of the way first.
Yeah, well, last week there were D's across the board. I can't really say that it was any different than last week. So offensively, it's a D. The run game was effective early. It became a non-existent factor later on when the score got out of hand. And, look, quarterback play was 50% passing percentage. Whether Mike was part of the injury, returning, whatever it was, he put himself almost to the point where he, felt like maybe he shouldn't be out there. A lot of those easy throws and progressions and hits and things that he was doing in his earlier starts, a lot of those things were difficult today. Just didn't seem right. So again, give him credit for being out there. You got to play with the rib protector, the extra padding, whatever it may be, but something else looked off today. And again, not being able to get into the end zone for 2 straight weeks now is obviously disheartening and raises some things as far as, where this team needs to be and could have been in the last 2 games. Defensively, it's a D because although they effectively were better as the game went on, the first half, 17 points, the 200 yards rushing, and it wasn't just the rushing of Kenneth Walker because he had a 60-yarder, and then they were able to kind of condense him down to 70 for the game after that. But EJ had a bunch of yards. Gino had a key run in this game, first down run, quarterback design run. All those things attributed to the early poor start. And just like Sheldon Rankin said, I mean, those are the things that a head coach and a coordinator you look at and say, man, We knew it was at stake. We knew what we had on the line. We thought we had everything and done everything right for the season. And then you don't come out and, you're saying to yourself, you have to start faster. Like, that's the message, right? From the why isn't that happening? So it's a fine line between making the play and not making the play. And quite frankly, today, because of that start, it was down. And then special teams, we give it a C. Moderate effort, inconsistent in the punt game a little bit today. Had the off punt, the shank, poor protection on that one as well. Again, no explosive plays in special teams. I think the whole season now we're waiting for something. And if we're talking about complementary football, when does the special teams outside of kicking bring something to the table? Quite frankly, nothing for the entire year. So, that's kind of where I stand on it. And I think, at the end of the day, and to have these two games, to be in the position that you're in, and, to not be able to start the way you want, or at least come off and keep it tight, it's obviously just.
I thought that was fair, Q. Where are you going to go? Before you start, though, I will say this is a Seahawks defense that have been giving up 25 points a game. That really speaks to where this Jets offense is at this point of the year.
Yeah, definitely. So I went with C's across the board. I feel like the grades should be a lot worse. Honestly, I feel like I could have given them much worse grades. I feel like I wanted to have a little more grace this week. The guys are already out of the playoffs, so I wanted to kind of switch it up. I'm going to start with special teams, though. Special teams, I gave them a C. For all the reasons that AB said, obviously the missed field goal, the bad punt, protection. The most exciting thing that special teams has done this year was that fourth down fake. Other than that, we haven't really seen anything from them. There's been some great field goals. We had the 61-yarder. But where are the explosive plays? Where are the big kickoff returns, the big punt returns? Those things that really kind of changed the momentum of the game. The Jets really needed at this game because they really fell flat. And so then when I'm talking about flat, I really want to start with the offense. Like you think about how the game started defensively, but offensively it wasn't any better, right? The first drive was an interception. And it was an interception off of him kind of rolling left as a right-handed thrower and throwing it to a guy that, it didn't really make sense, and I feel like that was kind of the story for the rest of the game. Mike White was kind of making decisions that weren't very Mike White-esque. It wasn't what we've come to believe we're going to see from Mike White. The run game had a lot of explosive plays, and not just from one back, right? There was multiple backs that were making explosive plays. It was actually encouraging. It was like, okay, maybe if they can't put points on the board, they can at least get these drives going and eventually, score a touchdown. But it just didn't happen. You got to halftime, there was a fumble. Then coming out of the half, it just wasn't. They weren't starting off fast. There was way too many things going on. The morale wasn't there. They didn't have anything that kind of give them any juice. Defensively, they couldn't do anything. Offensively, they had no juice. And special teams, they couldn't do anything. So then when I go to defense, when you start the game off and it's a 60-yard run, that's how you know if you can't recover from that, it's just going to go downhill from there. It's going to be a snowball effect, and that's exactly what it was. There was no juice for the whole game. Gino had led his team to multiple scoring drives, multiple field goal drives, and the Jets just could not get it going. Defensively, we expect more from them. And I've said it before, I feel like the magic that we saw in the beginning of the year just has not appeared for this Jets defense.
Fair all the way around assessments from Quincy and Enunwa and Anthony Beck. Today, Tyler Conklin, Jets tight end in his first year with the green and white, was targeted 6 times by Mike White. He had 6 receptions for 80 yards. After the game, Ethan caught up with him.
Here with tight end Tyler Conklin. Tyler, how difficult of a pill is this to swallow after being 7-4 and then being eliminated from the playoffs today?
Yeah, it's difficult. To go from where we were at one point to what we're doing right now, it's a hard pill to swallow. I honestly really don't know what to say too much about it besides the fact that, you can't expect to lose. You can't lose 4 games in December and, basically the playoff game this weekend would have been a playoff game next week. You can't lose those games and expect to feel like you deserve to be in. So, it sucks.
After talking to you and other players after losses, you always have the 24-hour, 12-hour rule. After a game like this, how difficult is it to put this one behind you quickly, knowing that next week's game might not have as much meaning as it once had or could have had, but also knowing that you guys have to go play and play for each other?
Yeah, I mean, this is one you don't get over in 24 hours, right? Because to go to the playoffs, you're going to have to wait a whole year to have the opportunity again. Next week, we're prepared like we always do, and we'll go out there and play hard like we always do. Hopefully we can end the season on a win and carry a little bit of momentum into the offseason. But yeah, I mean, this one is not going to be. I mean, this one's not just going to 24 hours and be passed. This is something you're going to probably hold on to for a little while, and hopefully, use it as motivation or something for next season.
What do you feel like was missing from the offense in today's game, particularly without watching the film?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. I mean, early in the game, the one thing I think of when I come off the field is just the energy. I just feel like we were kind of flat. I don't know why that is, but that's just kind of the feeling I had, is that we just seemed kind of flat, especially for the implications of that type of game. But, it's hard to say what was going on offense. I felt like we were running the ball well to start the game. Ty Johnson and Bam were both running really well. But, yeah, I mean, when we did have explosive plays, we had a lot of times we were inside the 40 in the first half and the second half, and we got stuck and kicked field goals or, had to punt. So you can't kick field goals and win playoff games.
And then lastly, Tyler, this experience, this kind of environment, being in a situation where you control your own destiny, how much do you feel like this kind of experience will benefit a young team that has a bright future?
Yeah, it's cliche, but you hear a lot of people say you learn more from your losses than you do your wins. You learn more from your failures than you do your triumphs. So yeah, I think for a young team, this could pay dividends in the future. The sad part about it is we're not going to know for a little bit of time. So that's hopefully going to be the case, and that should be the case. But it's going to be a little bit of a wait.
Awesome, Tyler. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.
As we start the new year, it is time for our closing segment on today's Jets Overtime, presented by SiriusXM. Quincy, I'm alarmed the last 2 weeks that we heard C.J. Mosley say that we didn't match the intensity of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And today, Tyler Conklin just said it, we were flat. The Jets had everything on the line, gentlemen, the last 2 weeks. Quincy, why did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, as a professional, it should come from within, but I also want to say that, it's also on the coaching as well. Like, at some point, the players have to be able to bring themselves in, whatever it needs to be. I know before, when I was playing, I would take 2 shots of C4 before the game. Like, that's a lot of caffeine, but I knew that's what I needed to get fired up sometimes so that when I got out there, I could perform on the level that I wanted to perform at. I don't know what these guys need to do, but they got to figure out something because it's not – what they're doing right now is not working. And unfortunately, they only have 1 game left to really show that they can have juice for a game because the last few games, they just have not shown it.
Yeah. Anthony, for a while now, I think Zach Wilson has been a scapegoat for a lot of people and saying, hey, listen, this kid is the problem, where the problem is there's a lot of issues right now. That's why this team is losing games.
That's interesting because it's a tough deal. I mean, I don't know what the future lies for Zach. Who knows if AVT or Breece Hall, what if these guys didn't get hurt? What would the season have finished or looked like? Or what would it actually look like? These things are tough because it happens and then it trickles into the reality of the situation. And, the play today, obviously, like, is there an excuse for Mike White to have a similar style performance of maybe Zach last week? So what is the reason? Why is it happening? And it only just magnifies and makes the decision process harder, right? Because, it's like, okay, what do you do? Because quite frankly, like we said, the next year, which is the season coming up, is supposed to be the big, the push. But there is some question marks in some areas, and guys are going to come back healthy. But we all know rosters change every year regardless. You have a good core set of young players, but ultimately the most important position has a few question marks around it.
Yeah, and AB, this is your final show of the season because you're making the transition to head coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks. Yeah, in fact, after celebrating New Year's Eve with your lovely wife last night, you headed up a supplemental draft. So Quincy and myself are wishing you plenty of luck. What do you think about this Jets season? overall. A team that started 5-2, that was 6-3 at the bye, that is now 7-9, that is going to finish the regular season in Miami, eliminated from the postseason. So many young, bright spots, so many foundational pieces, but as a whole, what's your take on 2022 and the New York Jets?
This is an much improved team from last year. It's a much improved roster from the last 2 years. They're +4 or +3, could be potentially +4 if they can pull out a victory next week. And to be 500 in that area is, to me, what it was prior to the season is a home run. Now, they have a great nucleus of young players, no question about it. And they're going to get guys back that, quite frankly, are needed and are really special players, especially at the offensive line. ADT is the best lineman on the team by far. He was not here this entire season. So that is huge, okay? And when they get back and they're healthy, there's a lot of good things to think. But, again, one gray area right now is the quarterback situation. And as much as you can say how good everything is around the quarterback and the pieces, you don't really necessarily have one yet, or at least the decision you're going to make moving forward is not there yet. So lots of light, but clearly the biggest question mark will be hovering around this organization now and moving forward. And it really completely changes everything you're trying to do, depending on what you do, as far as if you get someone or you go stay within, whatever that choice is, will be a major topic of discussion. But I think big picture, guys, moving forward, if that piece is set, again, this is a better team, and it should be even better next year.
Yeah, this is a better team that should be better next year. Quincy, as we say goodbye to AB, I wanted to get your thoughts on the quarterback pitcher of the Jets, because you are going to be here next week. So I want to talk about short term, your thoughts just next week. And then also, do you give any kind of advice to Coach Anthony Beck as we move ahead?
Well, I'll start with Coach Beck, man. I wish you all the best, man. It was great working with you. I'm happy that you got this career going, because I know from here, it's only up from here. The Rock is definitely going to make this a great opportunity for you. We're going to see you probably in some head coaching job in the NFL after this.
Don't forget about us when that happens.
Oh, I don't want that pressure, Q. Come on.
No, it's not pressure.
Best year one coach is possible.
It's not pressure, man. It's already written for you, man. Don't even worry about it. But as far as the quarterbacks go, man, that's tough. It's tough to say what's going to happen there, right? I hope that Mike White gets a little healthier and he can perform at the level that we want Mike White to perform at. And then as far as the rest of the season goes, or the next season, I hope that they keep this nucleus together, right? Because this is a great young nucleus. This is a great group of players. You don't want them to have to learn something new the following year. Keep this going, because you already outperformed where you thought you were going to be before the season.
Anthony, you are a great friend. You have an outstanding football mind. We are really happy for you at One Jets Drive as you get your start in the XFL. Have fun, brother. We will talk to you soon.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Happy New Year. I'm excited, and it's been a great year working with you guys. Can't wait. We get started Wednesday, man. Cranking it out. Put the hat on, pull the whistle over the head, and we're rocking and rolling.
Good stuff. And from everybody here at One Jets Drive, thank you for tuning in to all our live shows and all our programming throughout the year 2022. Today, we celebrate on a macro level a Happy New Year. I know this is a tough spot for a Jets fan. After starting the season with so much hope at 7-4, the Jets officially eliminated from the postseason with a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. But have a great night, and hopefully better days are ahead.
Thank you.